Welcome to 1992. And this is a bit of a bittersweet moment. 1991 was the Famicom's last big year, and now we have fewer games between this point and the end than were released in all of 1991. The question of 1991 for publishers was, can we still make money on the Famicom when there's a Super Famicom? And the answer was absolutely not. Which means 1992 was a year of exits. Get ready for a whole lot of, this was the last Famicom game from... By the time the year's out, only the largest publishers with established teams will be remaining. And because these games tended to sell very poorly at the time, we're going to see a lot of very rare, very expensive games. In fact, the two games that trade off the title of most expensive Famicom game were released in 1992. So let's get the year started with Goemon. For some reason, Konami really liked to drop these games right after the new year. Ganbare Goemon 2 was the first game of 1989, Ganbare Goemon Gaiden was the first game of 1990, and now Ganbare Goemon Gaiden 2 is the first game of 1992. Goemon had already made the 16-bit leap with a platformer released the previous summer, and Konami had a Christmas release for another Goemon game on the Game Boy. The Mystical Ninja was becoming the company's headliner, and this is his last Famicom outing. And just like the previous Ganbare Goemon Gaiden game, this one's an RPG. The game has a subtitle, Tenka no Zaiho, or Treasures of the World, which are the things that Goemon is pursuing in the game. The plot of the game is that Goemon and Ebisu find out about a tournament for thieves that's occurring, and naturally they have to take part. But it turns out that the World Thieving Championship was not on the level. As you're exploring, hitting A will interact with things, and hitting B will open up a menu. The menu has options to handle your inventory, use your special abilities, save the game to one of the game's 3 save slots, check out your current status, or rearrange your party order. There's a front and back row to the party, but you really can't take advantage of that until you've got a full group. As the story progresses, you'll always have 3 party members that you're required to have, and then your 4th party member is optional. Sometimes. There are characters you have to find or hire, and there are characters who will be forced into your party for part of the story. For special abilities, they're basically the magic of the game. Goemon winds up with offensive spells, while Ebisu starts out with some healing abilities. Naturally, towns have the usual item and weapon shops, as well as inns where you recover your health. Sometimes they're all in the same building. There's also a woman who will take care of status effects for you. When you get into combat, it will seem very familiar to anyone who's played an RPG before. You can attack, use an ability, use an item, run away or defend. There's also an option to do a super attack against all enemies that will likely kill them. The catch is, you have to have 4 party members, and it costs a bit of their HP to use this ability. It's basically a way of speeding up the later combats. And you're going to need that because there's a lot of them. This is one of those games where they think you shouldn't be able to take more than a couple of steps without getting into a fight. When the game begins, Goemon and Ebisu are in the small town where the tournament will take place. The qualifying round of the tournament is to retrieve an elephant figurine from a nearby tower. And that's your first dungeon before you even step out of town. You don't have a lot of money to upgrade your equipment with, but you'll have to fight so much as you go through the tower, you'll easily get enough money to cover that. With the statue retrieved, you're one of the 4 official entrants, and it's time to set off into the world. Except one of them cheats and blows up the bridge out of town. Fortunately for you, there's a secret tunnel that takes you out, and then your first destination is this pyramid. And that's as far as I got in my hour of play. I wish I had more to say about Ganbare Goemon Gaiden 2, but it is a very by-the-numbers RPG on the Famicom. The production quality is extremely high. It's a pretty game with plenty to do. There's 8 treasures around the world that you have to steal, and then of course there will be some endgame stuff once you've done that. But beyond that, there's really not much to this game. There was a tie-in comic created specifically for it, though by all accounts it's not especially good. This is the only Goemon game to receive a B rating from Sero, Japan's game rating agency. Apparently there's a few scenes that are a bit risque, and so it received a tiny bump for sexual content. This is Goemon's final RPG outing. Although there are a ton of games to go, he mainly sticks to action-adventure from now on. In Japan, Ganbare Goemon Gaiden 2 is really well regarded, although almost entirely for its presentation, rather than for its qualities as an RPG. It seems to be regularly pointed to as the best-looking Famicom RPG. My take on it is if you wanted to play an 8-bit RPG, you could do a lot worse. It's solid, it plays zippily, and it does absolutely nothing unexpected. But this isn't even the best RPG that Konami made. It's the kind of thing that you'd play, go, yeah, that was good, and then never think about again. No matter how nicely they dressed it up, it's just a standard RPG.